During a campaign event in New York City's Union Square on Thursday, Congressman Zeldin spoke about instances of crime in New York. He recounted specifically last weekend, 2 people were shot outside of his Long Island home while his teenage daughters were inside. He said, quote, "My front yard became the site of a drive-by gang-related shooting that left a bullet 30 feet away from where the girls were sitting." The GOP has made crime a central plank in their midterm message and have blamed Democrats for soft on crime policies. Democrats have countered that Republicans have voted against federally supported police budgets. According to recent polls, Zeldin is currently trailing behind incumbent Kathy Hochul in the New York governor's race.
Now, if we were going to recap just the last couple weeks or so in the state of New York, the incidents of crime, the victims, the facts, the impacts of laws, you'd think that we're recapping the last maybe year or two. Last Wednesday, there was a woman in Buffalo who was murdered in front of her 3 kids. The day before, her husband was released by a judge after being charged with a slew of domestic violence offenses. The judge didn't have discretion to keep that person detained, to weigh dangerousness. The mother was saying, "Listen, my husband is going to kill me." He got released on Tuesday. The next day, on Wednesday, she was murdered in front of her 3 kids wearing a bulletproof vest. There's a family from Long Island mourning the loss of their loved one who was visiting their kid up in Marist College a couple weekends back, getting a cup of coffee, checking out of a hotel as part of a family weekend. We saw videos of a Green Goblin gang on the New York City subway attacking innocent victims. Last Thursday, there were 4 knife attacks in a period of 10 hours that were finished up with one in the evening just outside of the 176th Street subway station in Morris Heights in the Bronx. 4 knife attacks in 10 hours. There was a woman who was at the Howard Beach subway station, attacked by a man who had once killed his own grandparent, released on parole, violated that parole this past August, and the parole officer was not able to detain this person. The victim, the innocent woman who was attacked, may not recover her vision. Last Sunday afternoon, my daughters were doing homework at their kitchen table. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon when all of a sudden gunshot rang out. Then they heard screaming. For my daughters, what they were most traumatized by was that they thought that those 3 individuals were coming after them. So they ran upstairs, they locked themselves into their bathroom. One of my daughters called 911, the other one called my wife and I. They're 16 years old, a quiet Sunday afternoon, doing homework at a kitchen table. And all of a sudden, actually, my front yard became the site of a drive-by gang-related shooting that left a bullet 30 feet away from where the girls were sitting, that had 2 people shot laying down about 10 feet from where my daughters were at that kitchen table, one under my front porch, the other one under a bush a couple feet away. Now, yeah, there have been instances of crime inside of these 5 boroughs, and it's really important for all of us to talk about it, to understand the victims, to understand the facts, to understand the impact of laws. But this isn't just an issue in the 5 boroughs of New York City. You would think that Paul DiGiacomo is here from the DEA here in the city, and Chris Monahan from the Captain's Endowment Association. We have amazing men and women in law enforcement who right now have to deal with the reality that yet another cop killer is being released in the coming days. That's why we were yesterday in Westchester. But if you were to go through all the instances from the last couple weeks, you would think that we are recapping the last year or two. So what are we going to do about it? Do we need to pass more pro-criminal laws? Will that make our streets safer? Should we support law enforcement less? Is that the trick? There are people who actually run Albany who feel like they haven't gone far enough in passing pro-criminal laws. I know that sounds crazy. There are people who are up in Albany who feel like law enforcement is supported too much. There are district attorneys who are getting elected to positions who pledge not to enforce laws across the board. They pledge to treat offenses as lesser included offenses. Well, it's time to take back our streets and our subways. New Yorkers should be able to walk these streets and feel safe, where maybe they used to be able to go 15 or 20 blocks on a beautiful summer night. Instead, they're only a block or two from their own house and they're calling an Uber. They don't feel safe just walking a couple blocks where only a couple years ago they felt safe on those same city streets. You could post a video of 12 seconds on the New York City subway and say, hey, look, no violence. You could post a clip of 2 minutes at a New York City subway station and say, hey, great, look, 2 minutes, no violence. As if there weren't 4 knife attacks last week on Thursday in 10 hours. As if this woman wasn't attacked at the Howard Beach train station by somebody who should not have been out on the street after violating parole especially. So what are we going to do about it? I believe that the governor of the state of New York must declare a crime emergency in the state of New York.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, after all of these stories of these last couple of weeks, it is crystal clear to me what needs to get done. So what I'm committing to do is what Kathy Hochul refuses to do. And the first day that I'm in office, immediately after being sworn in as the next governor of the state of New York, I will be declaring a crime emergency here in the state of New York.
Yes.
I will be signing an executive order to declare a crime emergency, but that's not all. I will be signing an executive order that will suspend throughout the entire state of New York cashless bail, the Less is More Act, the HALT Act, the Discovery Law changes, and raise the age.
Yes.
When we go to sleep the evening of January 1st of 2023, all 5 of these laws throughout the entire state of New York will be suspended in this state.
Yes.
I want to be able to work with the legislature. I will immediately be sending bills to the state legislature to fix these laws. I'm willing to work with anyone. Assembly, Senate, Republican, Democrat, liberal, moderate, conservative, it doesn't matter. And we're not here today as Republicans or Democrats or independents. And I'll tell you, this group here today is made up of Republicans and Democrats and independents. We can't approach this as liberals or moderates or conservatives. This group here today is made up of liberals and moderates and conservatives. But what unites all of us is that we are all here today as New Yorkers first. And as New Yorkers first, we must take back our streets. This is my commitment. This is my pledge. The governor could completely trump me today. This is my challenge to her. Hold a press conference in an hour. Announce that you are declaring a crime emergency and that you're signing an executive order to suspend these laws. I will be the first person to say thank you for finally standing up to people who are advocating for more pro-criminal laws to be passed, for people who are advocating for law enforcement to be supported even less. There are people who feel like district attorneys shouldn't even be doing their job. I previously announced that the first day that I'm in office, my first action will be to notify the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg, that he's being removed.
Yes! Yes! Yeah!
And I'll tell you, this isn't as some partisan power play. I will be reaching out to the people of Manhattan. The Democrats run Manhattan, okay? They have all of the citywide positions. They have all of the borough positions. There are a lot of Democrat community leaders. And I'll tell you, Manhattan is made up of people who aren't all Republican. But I'll tell you what, this isn't about removing the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg and saying, send me a name, they just have to be a Republican. As a matter of fact, they probably won't be. I don't know. We'll see. You know, this is the only thing I care about. There's a litmus test of one important trait. They are committed to enforcing the law and doing their job.
Yeah!
And before I'd be happy to answer any questions, I'd like to invite our state's next Lieutenant Governor, Allison Esposito, up. Allison retired from the NYPD, 25 years of service along a 40-year career. Allison was the commanding officer of the 70th Precinct in Brooklyn. Allison would have become an NYPD chief if she stayed in the NYPD, but she chose to retire to be our state's next lieutenant governor, and I'm incredibly grateful for her.